Hi guys, I'm Tiara Gattimora and this is my personal YouTube channel. Today I want to chill with you and tell you about one of the biggest problems on the left, in my opinion, which is the detracting from agency and an agentic, uniquely positioned subject, such as the working class, the agent for change. I draw away from that and going into a direction where fundamentally we are looking for victims, and the less agentic those victims are, the better. The more helpless those victims are, the better. And even if there's anything that gets done for the working class, it's never actually for the working class, and especially not by the working class. And that goes together with, the looking for these subjects that are not subjects, sorry, actually that's the problem, these objects that are fundamentally, victims who might be in need of help and who either couldn't or wouldn't raise their own direction, their own willingness to do things a certain way, hence the, love for kind of causes that are hard to win or like harder to win, and the return, like the eternal return to like a time where a given, hegemonic group, if you will, was probably more oppressed than we would be nowadays. And the insistence on that, such as, feminism's kind of obsolete approach that I see over and over again, rather than a feminism that works within a 2025 context and actually tackles what the current problems are that capitalism is creating for women. That would be an example of this. So I wanna take you guys through a number of articles that tackle this problem in the form of, talking about animals, whether that's the roles of animals in the lives of liberal kind of like millennials mostly, but also the sort of animal rights activists kind of biggest shortcomings, if you will. I want to start by citing one of my favorites, Amber Ailey Frost. I think, because I watched like all of her interviews, but I think she said this on Doomscroll podcast, which I will obviously link down below. It's amazing. You guys should check it out for sure. And she said something that really stuck with me and that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've been thinking about for a long time before, and that is, so do you like dogs or do you just hate people? Making a reference to these extremely antisocial, anti-agentic sort of quote-unquote socialism we have right now. I want to link this to an article on El País by Almudena Barragán titled "The Era of Perrijos," so dog children, furry children, don't know how you translate that. But basically, she cites an article on the European psychologist, which says, human beings have an innate need to care for others and receive emotional and social support, what we call unconditional love. But as fertility rates lower and social structures change with urbanization, lowering standards of living, and raising unipersonal homes, dogs have occupied the space left by missing minors or partners. So, beyond that, I want to go to a very similar article on Damage Magazine by Taylor Hines, which I thought basically tackled the same topic, but it went a little deeper into Freudian analysis. I really recommend reading through all of it. And basically, she writes, as the US birth rate hits a record low, pets are filling in the gap. The data bear this argument out. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that pet expenditures rose by 78% between 2013 and 2021, an increase of over 100 billion. She continues. In her call for critical pet studies, Heidi J. Nast writes that while many analysts have made it clear that the rich are becoming richer and the poor poorer, what is less commonly noted is that in most narcissistic contexts, child rearing is a drag on an individual's freedom to move and consume, leading many persons to opt out. It is not easy to circulate freely through avenues of consumption and privileged work and with children in tow. Today, therefore, ideas about the good life often do not involve family and children. And this actually directly connects to the point I was making on my video about travel and like the dark side of it and what it means in terms of the current obsession with it, especially from people that are supposedly on the left, and by younger generations. And basically, you know, in this video, which obviously I'll link below, I read an article by Anaïs Simon on El País where she wrote about this tendency, this trend. And basically she did write about precisely this. This is what I brought up. Children as a sort of hindrance. Children as a way to have an encounter with the other, to come face to face with another, to go beyond ourselves, to have sort of some form of material relationships that are stable and that are solid. And you know what I discussed in that video and what I brought up from the article is that the zeitgeist right now is against that very encounter with the other. The other is sort of a limitation on one's freedom, as capitalism's sort of approach to our social lives is to fundamentally, keep yourself quote unquote safe from even other people and what the relationships with other people might entail, to keep yourself focused on your inner interiority, your psychic interiority, that would be, and basically to focus on that rather than on your position within a material context. And that obviously is not prone as well to like put you in touch with people next to you, especially if it's gonna be something so life-changing and so, just plainly close as a child inevitably would be. It does link as well to society being driven basically by individual choice. That's the sort of ideology that like dominates the society we're in right now, like the idea that you can just, individually make choices over choices over choices, as if you depend on nothing and nobody, like trying to untether yourself from basically like everyone else, ignoring the fact that precisely under capitalism you do depend on other people's whims. Just to give you two for instances, your job and your boss and your landlord to keep your job and housing. Pretty basic, wouldn't you think? And yeah, the idea that you can just choose, like, swipe endlessly on dating apps, constantly move cities, move jobs, change friendships because one is maybe a little too toxic for you. You need to do the therapy speech and then leave. And because you don't want to be the boring person who just has like everything in their hometown. I mean, God forbid. And yeah, like, also I think I would link all of this to the idea, which, ironically to me, the whole family abolition thing is funnily connected to like this idea of the individual choice. Because what they're saying is very much like it is unacceptable that you get like randomly assigned people to like take care of you when you're a minor. And it's just like, it's as if like having like biological kids, which obviously you don't get to choose, is like something so terrible and like unacceptable, because they're like a biological like result, of yourself, kind of. And yeah, it's like a lack of acceptance of this idea in itself. It's like anything material, including that, no, we have to like get over and like walk past. And it's, like truly like children cannot be chosen. And in my opinion, even who you like and who you don't like cannot be chosen. But again, because everything is based in that psychic and interiority, then it's like, no, you should be able to choose the most green flaggy partner. You should be able to like choose which children you take care of, and take care of every child in the community, and like not prioritize your own. And to me, yes, all of that does fall within that umbrella of refusing to have a gripping encounter with the other, to avoid it as much as possible, to let that other be a project beyond yourself that you are invested in, and that's meaningful to your life, even though it might not make you happy 24/7, as if happiness should be this like number one priority and like perpetual imperative. And yeah, the idea that all of that should fall within a society where you are able of constantly displacing, because that displacement is what's gonna make your career stand out in the professional managerial class. I'm gonna continue with this Dog Moms article. The next quote would be, just as children of previous eras were taught to become buffalo, salmon, or machines, we, the children of post-industrial society, must become dogs by happily conforming to the demands to be cheaper and obedient. Exactly, that's the thing. Like, it's this imperative to be happy, to seek that happiness as like the main sort of goal in life. And ultimately, yes, to be obedient, because you're not supposed to be an agentic subject. And like linking to what I was bringing up before, you're supposed to be a victim. You're not supposed to be a subject. You're supposed to be an object. You're supposed to, if you are a woman and you ever get sexually assaulted, you're not really supposed to get over it. You're supposed to make it taint your whole life, share your trauma with the world, let it completely engulf you, and fundamentally be a victim for others to save. Be in a hegemonic blog where you find other women who share that experience as the most tragic one of their lives, rather than, you know, be in class solidarity that would allow you to organize with a wider number of people, that then could attain the material conditions for you to be safe from that to happen. Because if you actually look at how that happens, it has a lot to do with the material conditions that women find ourselves in. And I'm gonna continue again with this article. In an October 2023 survey sponsored by the pet care company Rover, over 20% of American pet owners said they had intentionally delayed or postponed dating, being in a romantic relationship, or even getting married because of the deep bond they have with their pet. And I continue. Adam Curtis once said that society today promises us that you can be free, but you will be alone. Pets help us bear our freedom with less loneliness, but they can't help us overcome the essential ambivalence at the heart of that freedom. Yes. I would say that is exactly what is happening. It's this promise that you can be free, and that it's better to be free and alone than to be quote unquote constrained by the aforementioned elements, and even the fact that people are delaying like dating or like getting married. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, and the thing is, this comes as no surprise to me, because again, if an agentic subject is no longer what we're interested in, and it's even seen as like quote unquote bad, or inherently wrong, but we crave and we are taught to idolize that victimized object so much, then I see how a left that is so passionate about victims would regard this, passive, victimizable object of an animal. I get how they would regard it as more valuable and something for time to be invested in, rather than a person whom, why would they have children with if we are a virus on the planet, right? At my a former job, I remember having this episode with, this was one of the worst sentences I have ever been told, and I probably told it before already, but it bears repeating, to be honest. This co-worker, I honestly, probably not the best way to go about it, but I was like insisting like, hey, unionize. And I remember she asked me like, do you have to pay for that? And I was like, yeah, there is like, something you pay like monthly to the union. And she was like, for real? I'd rather give that to a dog shelter. That tells you everything you need to know about the current state of the left and exactly what is wrong with us, And to me, it's a manifestation of this, whether that's extremely conscious or not. But to me, a left that fundamentally asserts that we are a virus on the earth, no wonder they'd rather go for dogs in general. No wonder they'd rather invest in defending an animal rather than a person. That's us signing our own like defeat, like great, brilliant strategy. I'm gonna read you guys from Peter Singer's Race Problem by Sarah Gray and Joe Clefainon Jacobin. This is a little bit of a more vintage article, but I thought it was very interesting to bring this together with how we like how animal sort of activists, animal rights groups have, you know, taken over the left, which is, yeah, like I said, directly connected to people individually, literally drawing away from human relationship and into animal ones. It's just so bad. So I'm gonna read. Those who count animal rights activists or vegan evangelists among their Facebook friends will no doubt be familiar with this sort of framing. It often involves inflammatory memes juxtaposing images of factory farmed chickens and with images of slave ships, or I cannot even say this for YouTube, I think concentration camps. Israeli animal rights activists also drew this parallel in a recent viral video, explicitly describing a truck full of chickens as just like what my grandparents experienced during the Holocaust. I mean, what the fuck? Another quote is, animals, no matter what singer and other animal rights activists may want to claim, are objects of history. To compare them with humans who have suffered and do suffer oppression, and importantly, consciously resist that oppression, is factually wrong, not to mention reactionary. Memes and serious political arguments that compare factory farms to slavery and genocide are profoundly racist. The animal rights group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, is notorious for employing lynching and Holocaust imagery. In 2009, PETA members dressed in Ku Klux Klan robes outside Madison Square Garden to protest the eugenic breeding practices promoted by the Westminster Dog Show. Animal rights activists also routinely appropriate the vocabulary of the 19th century anti-slavery movement, referring to themselves, for example, as abolitionists. It's just embarrassing. And they continue. Human beings, whatever their racial identity, possess agency. Enslaved human beings, even in the most brutal days of the chattel system, were self-directed beings who not only felt pain and experienced self-perception, but who loved, reasoned, wrote, and above all, fought for their own freedom. Other species will never display that kind of agency. So, this again completely mirrors that drive for an object that is non-agentic, right? On the left. Also that refusal that, like, you know, we are guided by reason, we have the capability to use reason, which is a pretty huge resource. And especially we have the capability to use reason for politics. So, you know, it's not about our getting in control of our psychic lives so that we can have a better love life. It's about maybe try to leave that alone for a minute, or at least stop making it the matter of PMC experts, and actually focus on how we can use rationality for political ends. And, you know, I think one element where you can spot this kind of, another example of where you can spot this kind of tendency away from the subject and onto the object is on left populist projects led by professional managerial class leaders that are also extremely prominent within those projects. And, you know, their connection to ONGism and ONGism in general, to be honest, in the last 3 decades of the left. And yeah, like, again, to me, this is just entirely linked to that abandonment of the agentic, uniquely positioned working class subject for fundamentally different blocks of victims, and the more of an object victim, the better. I am also gonna leave actually this episode from the What's Left of Philosophy podcast, because I want you guys to check out the role of Chantal and Mouffe and Ernesto Laclau in this moving from that subject to an object fundamentally, or like a lack of subject, if you will. Because I think in that podcast, like especially Lilian Cicerchia, her analysis is just absolutely brilliant. It really, honestly, like, I know it's just a podcast episode, but for me it was honestly kind of a before and after in terms of how I started perceiving the current left, and what happened to it, and like the origin of how this move was made from this agentic subject into, you know, the lack of one fundamentally. And I don't know, I very much recommend it. I hope to talk about it, and obviously it's relevant to pretty much everything I say. And actually, I want to end on another Damage article by George Hoare. It's titled "After the Death of the Subject, Hatred of the Human." Again, after the death of the subject. And I'm gonna read. He writes, "Political theorists have moved from explorations of animal rights or our responsibilities to protect the environment to speculating on whether non-human animals form a class or how they are practically indistinguishable from humans for the purposes of justice. In both cases, our privileged position as ultimate creative force or as steward of the animal kingdom is rejected." And then he says, "The death of the subject was a loss. The hatred of the human is a celebration of that loss, and thus a serious threat to any recovery of agency and experience today. We fear our bodies, we disdain our thoughts and desires, we despise others as carriers of disease and retreat to our own small private lives. A climate doomerism that longs for the extinction of humanity is increasingly normal." Exactly, and this is what I was saying about fundamentally understanding humans as a virus. And how that is, I mean, it's so clear, it is directly linked to disregarding and basically condemning agentic subjects, because the most agentic, not just within, it's even beyond the left here, it's about humanism at this point, and about, recognizing a difference between human beings and animals. I mean, and, the fact that as the most agentic being on this planet, a political project that is against agentic subjects, of course, is gonna condemn humans the most, right? That is just, again, like I said in the beginning, one of the worst things that I see done on the left. And one of the least leftist things I see done on the left, actually. And, it's, of course, then of course we're a virus. And this, it goes hand in hand with antinatalism, goes hand in hand with, climate doomerism, and also treating climate change as basically like it's a problem for the planet and like the hurt that we have inflicted on it, rather than like the only reason, no offense, that it's a problem for the planet is that it's a problem for us, and we should use the earth to basically serve ourselves, humanity. The thing is, we should make use of the planet democratically, not in a way that crushes the working class. And you know, if that use is democratic, it's kind of, I mean, it should be pretty obvious that then, yeah, we're not gonna use the planet in a way that's gonna destroy it. So that then it's, you know, such a big problem for us that we can't even be here. If our leftist project is about our current material conditions and the material conditions of the children that we do have, you know, not the dog we adopt that's gonna live like 20 years. Like, if we think of ourselves in a more not in a more, we're not thinking about in that way at all, that like if we think of ourselves in a way that is part of a historic struggle, a historic epic struggle for the betterment of our conditions and the progress of humanity. I mean, how could we let our very, you know, setting, natural setting get destroyed? Like, I'm thinking we wouldn't, but it would be for our sake. It would be to serve ourselves, not to be kind and be nice to the animals and the planet. Like, we're never gonna win that way. And also, to me, that's not a leftist project. It's not a modern project, and it's not a project for progress and an agentic subject that, like, you know, basically uses what it has for its own gain, which, like, why wouldn't we follow our interests? See here how it's, you know, a project for progress and the betterment of of human life versus a project for who's the nicest guy. Which of these two do you want to be? I think that's the question here. I definitely want better lives. Thing is, I don't just want them for Jeff Bezos and another 3 people. I want them for everyone, and I want everyone to have a say in what that better life looks like. And that's why I'm a Marxist and a socialist. And I hope you guys check out these articles. I hope you see the links that I'm pointing out here. I think they should be pretty obvious, and I think if if you're interested in this, please go through these gems that I have brought here to the table. You're welcome. And yeah, these people that I'm citing are amazing. Please, please, please listen to them. I hope I put them together nicely and tidy for you guys, and I hope to see you here back soon. Please subscribe, please, and like the video if you did, to support me. And yes, I will see you here soon.